Good morning and welcome back to the channel Home Renovation Experts. Steve here on this 5x3 garden room build. So day 3, if you've been following, the rods are now all in place. I have a delivery booked for today for the timber to come for all the base, and whenever that turns up, it turns up. But in the meantime, this was what I'll be doing. So heavy duty woven weed control. So basically this was from Toolstation. So 2 of these, so I'm going to put this across the whole area, going through, so from fence to fence, all the way to the back, to wherever it comes at the front nicely. I'll get these on. I'll then start doing the nuts, double nuts, onto the bottom of all the threads, and then get all those leveled up, and then put the steel plates on top of that, which will be what my wood sits on. This will make more sense as I go through, and I will video it and document it, so that'll be coming up shortly. But yeah, that is the plan. That's where I'm at. That's what's happening. And I think it might rain, but it doesn't matter because I've set up my little home from home. So that's always nice. Right, I'll finish this cup of tea and I'll crack on. Right, so that is the membrane down, looking nice. Got a little bit to go in this corner because I forgot that obviously it goes out at a big angle there. So if this had been straight, that'd have been perfect. It's just this little bit, so I'll pick some of that up tonight on the way home and just chuck that down tomorrow morning. Well, no, when I get back to the job, which isn't tomorrow morning, because I'm on decking tomorrow. But when I get back, I'll put that little bit in. Little tip. So any little slabs and stuff you come across during the build, you think, oh, I'll just stick them in a skip or whatever. Keep hold of them temporarily because they're useful for like pegging down like the membrane and stuff. A question I had not too long ago was like some bloke said, oh, I've got a load of like DPC, like the big wide sheets, can I use that as like weed membrane? No, you can't, because it needs to be permeable. You need to allow rainwater to go through it. If you use say a DPC or tarp or something, because yeah, it would stop the weeds from coming through, but it also stops the water from getting in. So what would happen is any water that got under here would just pool and stay there. So you need something that water can get through, but this stuff is designed to obviously stop the sun and to stop the weeds coming back through it. So yes, no tarp, no DPC, only ever buy weed membrane. Little top tip. Right, so now I'm gonna go get my nuts. Sounds wrong, but you know what I mean. And my big level, and I should start getting some nuts on and start leveling all this lot across. So I should show you how I do that as well. Nuts, how do you tie them? Where do you put them? Let's leave the gags to one side for just a second now, okay? So what we've got to do is we need to get 2 nuts down to the bottom here. You can see there's one right here. Look at that, that's one I prepared earlier, very blue pizza. Second one going down here. Now here's a little trick. It sometimes works like a dream, sometimes it does nothing. But I see if I can convince this second one to do it. Sometimes you get away better on the second one. I'm gonna put you an angle. Okay, it does a job, doesn't it? Right, drill, steel wire brush on the end of it. And sometimes you can you get the idea. Sometimes you have to give it a little start again. So there you go. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You saw it kind of got a start, and I've done these before, and I'll try it on all of them. Some of them go whipping down it, and that is bloody brilliant because it saves you like having to manually do it. I mean, it's not exactly difficult, but when I say some of them take well and just boom, straight away. Perfect, see? And I show you the truth because I haven't going to edit that or stuff. You're going to see this video because this is the way it goes, you know what I mean? This is reality of building these things. So yeah, that's just one of your things. So basically I have to wind this one down manually. But basically I'll do that to all 22 of these. So get the double nuts down to just at the base, give or take. What you have to do is figure out which one of your rods, so basically which way your land's running. So you want to get to the highest point, but because that's the highest point you'll land, then you set your nut to the lowest point you can. So this one's the highest one. So as it runs down there, they'll come higher off the ground, you see, the floor joists. So this makes more sense when I kind of get the wood in, you'll see. But basically from the highest point, set your first nut to the lowest point, wind the second one down, and then kind of get them all on, and then we'll level from this one, that way, and that'll be the one that sets our standard for which way the level's gonna run. So I'll explain it again in a minute, just because it's easier to show and you can kind of understand then, but that's kind of where you're going with it. So there you go. Wait. I need to prove the point now. Ta-da! See, like filming, when it works, boom, a lot quicker than doing that. Righto, I've got the mic on, so this should work. So, originally, according to you about 10 seconds ago, I said lowest level's going to be over that way, and it turns out that as I've kind of, I started, sorry, that corner, so I started that corner, put my first two nuts on as low as I could, and then I put my two nuts on, going that way, that way, that way. And as I kind of went, I just did kind of roughly level, just to kind of get a rough idea of what the levels are doing. And it turns out that actually my lowest level is right here on this front, so the one next to that one. So what I'm now doing is, I'm now taking that level, I then put it across there like so, adjusted these ones, so they're now tightened off, perfectly level. Now here's the trick. The level's in this direction, as you can see it now, yep? So I now pivot it 180, and now I'll level the next one. The reason we do that is because if your level is out for some reason, you're equalising it every time you turn it. Because if say it was just a little bit out, and I've done this whole lot in the same direction, that way, that way, that way, well, my floor's going to be running downwards or potentially upwards. So by turning a level, you're just kind of equalising through. And all I'm literally doing is putting it on, adjust the top nut to where it needs to be, making sure it's absolutely spot on, because you know, we're at this stage, why not? Tighten that one up to it. Once I'm happy that is where it needs to be, drop it down. I then just pin the top one in position, and then just tighten the bottom one up to it, because you don't want to turn the top one, because obviously that's the level that's been set, so that's good. So that's it, nice little nip, double check, absolutely spot on. Pivots, good French quote there. Down we go again, have a little look, wants to come up. So that is looking very, very tasty. Lock that one there. Pin the top one in position so it doesn't shift around. And tighten up the bottom one to it. Top tip, when you're sort of doing it up and you're leaning, don't go belting that, alright? That's a health and safety tip, that is. I know, I can do it sometimes. Round again. I don't know if I'm in frame, but you better hear me, so I'll just level this one off exactly the same as those ones. And that is very, very tasty, very, very nice. Lock it up. And then always just check it after you've locked it up, just to make sure. Spot dog at Woolworths. Right, so that is that, okay? So that now is that front row, absolutely 100% level. Now, for example, to get the centre one, transfer off that one, we know that one's level. So just get the level up to roughly positioned. Whip this nut up. So that's us on it. Lock up. Done. So that now means I've got this level through the centre set. Now means I can go in that direction as well. And what I will then do, so I level all of them off all around the perimeter, through the centre, and then I'll go around randomly and check from, say, that one to that one to the centre one, that back one to the centre one. So just to double check to make sure that everything is running exactly how it needs to, you know, because this is the stage now. Once we start putting the wood on, we've lost the ability to adjust, really. So get it right now, spend a bit of time doing it. Job is a good one. So yeah, hopefully that helps out a bit. And like I say, these are now long and locked, so that then goes on there like that. And that is it. The wood now sits on there, slides straight over, boom, done. Right, I'm gonna crack on, get the rest of these levelled. Oh, actually, and one more tiny little thing before I forget. So, obviously, like I showed you, using the wireless brush to kind of get your nuts whipped down. The other thing this is really good for is before you even put the nuts on, it's just a whip up like that, all the way around it, because where it's rained overnight and the rain has been hitting the soil, it then sprays like soil up into the threads, which then means when you go to like lock these nuts down, you're fighting with grit and crap in between the threads. So by using the wire brush, which is on there anyway, boom, 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 that cleans it all out, and then your nuts go on a lot quicker. So there's a tiny little tip, it's just an extra bit. Right, there you go. Have a look now, you can see, all the plates are now on as well. So literally, like I said, just went around, leveled it all off, drop these bad boys on top, and that is it, done. So, I've just spoken to my delivery company, they should be out within the hour, so that's perfect. So what I'm going to do is get my chop saw set up, get my woodworking tools and bits and pieces all set up and out, and then hopefully I can start building some of this frame. Hopefully I'm the first one on the drop. He's just left the yard now, so you know, fingers crossed, anything can happen at this point. So yeah, so once I kind of get set up and get cracking on, I'll then do a little video just showing you what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. Happy days. So a few 2 seconds for me. About 45 minutes or so, so I had a nice longer lunch. The wood has arrived, which is very, very pleasing. I've just lumped it all through. So there you go. There is the 4x3, 4.8 metre length. This stuff is the C24 grade, so extra tough. You do ideally want the C24 for the floor because obviously this is the thing that's bearing all the walls onto the steel rods. Under here, just covered over, so I've got my 4x2s. Again, C24, but that was just because that's what they had. C16 is absolutely fine for the floor joists, no problem. And there's also Ergo Protect flooring underneath there, 22mm, which will make the actual floor itself. Ergo Protect, any P5 flooring basically means it's moisture resistant, which then means, so for the Ergo Protect, for example, you could have this stuff laid out here for something like 20 days. It could be exposed to like the rain, the wind, it doesn't care. It's basically just really hardy flooring, which is perfect for these sort of builds, because the weather being slightly unpredictable. But also any P5 rated flooring is going to be better than just like normal chipboard stuff. And even then, I try and cover it where I can, because you don't want to push it to its limits. And you know, chucking tarp over it, what's that, a 2-minute job? As I put the floor down, I chuck tarp over it where I can, just to protect it. Why not? Why not? So my plan now is I'll get the perimeter in, hopefully with any luck. So I'm going to start the two sides, boom, boom, because I know they're perfectly straight. And then that'll mean this one will go straight to the center, mark it off once those two are in, chop them, slide it on, jobs are good. Un. So I'll probably do a time lapse of this bit so you can see that, and where there's some detail, I'll chuck that in as well. Right, I better get measuring. Right, what you're going to need is one of these. So it's a 26mm wood bit. Look at that, lovely jubbly. One of these, nice tri-square. Now this one is brilliant because it's magnetic, which is so much better than trying to adjust it and pinch it in. You can slide it up, lovely jubbly. And a pencil. So what I've done is, basically, I held the wood up to my bars. I've made sure that I've overhung the front and back, so this is cut bigger than the actual building will be. Marked a pencil mark exactly through the centre of where these are going to be. And what I'll do, I'll show you by taking you off of here. And what you do now is once you've got those marks, so you can just see one, there we go, just there. Put the old tri-square on. I'll just put you on that little bar there for a minute. Got that straight to the centre, Boom. So I'll do all 3 of these ones. 2, 3. Lovely. And then what I'll do is I will measure the width of this. I know it's 4x3, but you still just double check. So 75, so that's gonna be, so just get my center mark. Just double check it both directions just to make sure it's spot on. You want to make sure it's definitely through the center wood. Once I've got that, I can then get that slid to there, slide my wood over, get that up to my bit of wood, like that, and then I know that mark, I can just reproduce it. So I then just go through, that's the center of that one, that's the center of that one, and the same for the last one. And now I know that that mark through there is through the center perfectly. That will line up with that one, that one will line up with that one, and the third one as well. Then what we're going to do, put you back over here, is grab the big drill bit, and you want to go through it as level as you can. So you kind of get an eye for this like the more you do, but down the center mark. And once you've gone through, go through it, but just try and give it a bit of an angle as you go. Just kind of widen it up a little bit. Just means that if these aren't 100% level, it doesn't bind as much. It should just help to slide straight over. So I'll just nip these last 2. Right, and now I know what you're thinking, great, and now I just get it and slide it over. But no, because that's sometimes what I do, and I suddenly go, oh, I forgot something. So, love little thing you want to do. Is grab yourself your circular saw, set it to a depth that is about equal to, just a bit bigger, then the depth of your bolt, so there you can see just overshoots it a little bit. So I'll just pull that back up a little bit up from there, lock it off on the back. And now what you'll do is grab the wood, bring it slightly over here, like that. And then what I'm going to do is grab my bolt. Hopefully you can just see that roughly where you are. So I've got my bolt, so I know how wide it is. Just make a couple of marks, half the width again of the bolt either side. So that's either side of the hole. I will show you this up close in a moment. Give me a second. One more. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to run the saw through a few passes. Like that. And then, give me a moment. Grab yourself a hammer and a chisel, turn her over, and simply knock those bits out, like this. Those don't need them anymore. And what you've basically done now is you've created yourself a beautiful little spot for your nut to now do up in. So now, once you grab the nut, you can now see, lovely notch out, that'll sit in there, which means when my floor goes down over it, it sits over the top of that bolt, but that means that this whole bit of wood is now bolted onto the rods, so the whole building is perfectly anchored. And there you can see like the marks. Again, this hasn't got to be 100% accurate. All you're really doing is, don't make the mistake of just cutting this notch the same width as the bolt, because don't forget, you've got to get your spanners in there to be able to turn it and tighten it. So don't just make it too tight, otherwise you cut yourself a bit short. So I'll go ahead and do that on the other two, and I'll show you me belting it into place. Right, and here's one I prepared earlier. So this one's all notched out now. So what I'll do is make sure that I marked it so I knew which side as well was the fence side, so it's not like backwards and forwards and upside down and all that kind of jazz. So now it's a matter of getting it over these bad boys. So once you get one aligned, those you kind of mark up nicely. And then you might want one of these. Didn't that go down nicely? So I'll just turn these now so they're all facing the correct way, all squared up to it. It's just a matter of winding these down. So you see what I mean? It's quite simple. It's a nice easy system. So we know this is perfectly level. We'll get that wind down. I'll get the driver in a minute and wind it down faster. But you can see what the premise is there. So we'll get that wound down, get it nipped up with the spanner nice and tight, double check the level, should be absolutely spot on. And then that's it. I'll do that other side opposite, and then the back and the front, and see if I get time to put the centre one in as well. But because we've done all this prep work, everything will run level, everything will run true, and it's going to be beautiful. Okay, now that I've got this one cut in, not fitted yet, so not done the bolts up, what I'm going to do is send in 200mm hex screws, so just have a little looky there, there you go, into each corner to pin each side. I'm going to do that before I do the nuts up, because I want to make sure that both those bits of wood in the corner are perfectly flush with each other, and that's easier to do before you pin it into place and lock it down. So I'm going to whip those in, and then I'll do the nuts up, and then that'll be it. This front joist in. and there you go. It was a bit slower than that in real life, but it looks good, doesn't it? So I should slow it down a pace now. So there you go. So now you can see the actual shape of the building. So you can see now much better. Look, obviously 3.5 meters internal across there, 2.5 that side, square edge on the front there, square edge on the front there, and that is it. All beautifully level. If I can stand on it, perfect. So yeah, very, very chuffed with that. So what I'm gonna do now is sort of have a clear up. I'll quickly run round though. I just trim off the overhangs now. So that is those bits done. And then, depending on what time it is, I'll get all my tools packed up. Maybe I'll cut a few of these like rods down. See how time goes. You'll find out in a minute. Right, so I've got a bit of time, so I'll just quickly tidy up all my tools to back on the van now. But I've got the disc cutter out, so I'm gonna have a quick whack at knocking off a couple of these like rods, just to kind of make it a bit safer on site. And like I say, I've got the time, so I'll whip a few of those down and happy days. I'll put this on time lapse again so you can watch me cut and have some fun. Sparking fun. Right, and that is it for the day. So not too bad, is it really? Not for one day's graft for one bloke. So all the nuts leveled off at the bottom, plates on, took receipt of all the timber, cut the frame, fit the frame, screwed the flame in, and then managed to grind off all these bits as well. And that explains why I'm tired and quite sweaty, but happy days. So that is it, that is the shape now in. Over here, there was a join, forgot to mention this. So these are 4.8 meters, it's just over 4.8 to get to that end. So, as you can see, I just do a half cut through each one, chop down the center, and then put these joiners on. These things are brilliant, pick them up at Screwfix. Dirt cheap as well, dirt cheap. And then done and dusted, nice angle cuts for here. 200mm hex screws through all the joins on all the corners and center section. And that, my friend, is basically it. If you like what you've seen, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Loads of this stuff coming up. And I really hope this has helped somebody out. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but if you stuck through to the very end, go get yourself a beer because you've earned it. You've basically done a day's graft for me, so I know I will be. Tomorrow will be decking, so I'll be on another job. Once the decking job is done, I'll then be back here full time then. So just sort of finishing off all these little bits and pieces. So brilliant. So if you're interested in learning how to do composite decking on Jouplast legs on a patio, that's tomorrow's video. See you then, guys. Bye.